welcome to my channel. My name is Chauncey Schroeder if you guys are new, and if you guys are not new, welcome back. This type of video is very different than something I've ever done, and honestly I'm like super nervous about it, more because I just want to make sure that I say everything accurately. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, you guys will know that I have been giving a lot of information over there, but I still feel like I need to continue to use my platform and give information here as well. So this video I'm going to be showing you guys 10 different ways to be an advocate in your community for Black people during this time, and just a good way to be an ally. So if you guys like this video, comment below. I'm like super nervous about making this video, to be honest. If you guys have seen my Instagram lives, I've done 2 videos. One was an hour long and one was 30 minutes long, and in both videos I talked a lot about my background, I talked about my frustrations, and then I did like a Q&A of questions that people had, like how to make friends with people of color, and things like that. And so if you guys want more tangible information, head over to my Instagram and check out those live videos. But this video in particular is just going to be 10 ways to be an ally in your community and things that I would love to personally see. So yeah, comment below if you guys do enjoy this video. Like I said, I'm super nervous. I just want to make sure that I say things accurately, but I also want to make sure that I'm a good source of information. So yeah, let's get into the first way to be an ally. So the first way to be an ally, and before I say this, I want to preface that I am not a voice of all the Black community. I can just speak for myself and what I would love to see, or what my friends I know would love to see, but I just can't say I speak for everyone. But I'd say that the first way to really be an ally and help make real change is to educate yourself. I know so many people have said this on Instagram or in person, but education is key. You can't really fight for something or help something or make any real change if you don't know the real problem. So educating yourself through podcasts, through books, through movies, and I will link a lot of my favorites below. And I also have 2 Instagram posts on Instagram that have like 10 different ones, and so I'll link all of that in the description below. But I think it's really important to have education be like the foundation of like a way to be an ally, because if you aren't educated and someone comes to you and provides inaccurate information, trying to show that this is not a problem in our society, that you know there is not any racism, or that there is not any you know issues within the police force, then if you're not educated, you might feel that those statements are accurate. I will say right off the bat that I do not want anyone to think that this video is saying that all police officers are bad. That is not the case. There are a lot of good police officers. There are just some that are not using their position in the way that they should. So this is, all these 10 things would be a good way to help combat that. So let's get into the second way to be an advocate during this time for the Black community. The second thing that you can do to be an ally after you have educated yourself, you know, read the podcast or listened to the podcast, read the books, and you feel like you have a good grasp that this is an actual issue, the second thing to do is to listen. And I know this sounds like such a basic concept, but as a Black woman, I know that when someone listens to me and they just really show empathy for the experiences that I've had, that is so impactful to me. I have been a part of the Black Lives Matter chapter in my hometown for about 2 years, but I have also been very involved since about 2012, 2013, and you know, during all of those years until now, I don't feel like I have felt as comfortable talking about this topic as I do now, and I feel like a large part of that is because I feel like people are really listening right now. So just continuing to listen to people's stories, reaching out to your friends and just saying, is there anything that I can do just to be support, just a way to listen to you and help you feel heard. That is so important. And I've received so many text messages just from people letting me know that they are a listening ear. And it's made me feel comfortable sharing my own experiences. So that is the second way to be just a really powerful advocate and ally. And let's get into the third way to be an ally during this time. The third way to be an ally to the Black community, myself in particular, and other people that I know. Like I said, I can't speak for the entire Black community, but the third way to be an ally is to just donate your time, donate your money, donate items that you think would be beneficial, donate into the Black community. A lot of the time, Black organizations receive funding, they receive support, they receive things like that from the Black community. And so like we're pouring into our own community along with pouring into other organizations that assist people that are not of color, but usually a lot of the support does come from the Black community. So if you you know, don't have the time to do some of these action steps that I'm going to talk about, then donate. It's so important. I know that our chapter here in my hometown area, Black Lives Matter chapter, we have created an event for like coffee and conversation with police officers where community members can have an open dialogue, and police officers can listen, show empathy, and then kind of show their perspective to hopefully bridge the gap. We've also created a book library with free books for children of color that are Black in particular to read books about you know, themselves as the main character, the protagonist, the hero, and not just you know, a supporting character. And so seeing things like that is so important for the community, but it also does take funds and it takes valuable things. So that is a really important step. The next way that I would say is a great way to be an ally is to advocate and amplify the voices of Black people. And I know that you guys probably saw on Instagram, there was the like a week of support for people that are Black who you know, are in the social media space, and everyone was really just amplifying their voice and listening. I know on my Instagram I made a post about colorism, which was something I never would have talked about on Instagram or just anywhere in general. And I talked about how you know, I know someone personally who has bleached their skin because they felt like they shouldn't be brown and they wanted to be white. And then that opened up other people to message me saying that they felt comfortable sharing their story, and so they shared their story of how they had bleached their skin because they didn't feel like comfortable, you know, being in the skin that they were in. I've never bleached my skin, but even in America, there's still people who do that today. So I just, you know, think that's so important to amplify the voices of Black people, but also to advocate. There are many times, and maybe even in this video, I'm not sure, there's many times where people will be argumentative, they will be frustrated, and they will say things that are kind of out of turn in the comments or in direct messages, find you on Facebook and do all kinds of things. And so when you can advocate for that person who's sharing their story and their experience, whether it's in the comments by uplifting them, or whether it's sharing the video for more education or sharing their story with other people for more education, that is so important. And I know that these steps seem like listening and education and amplifying voices seem to be so basic and minute, but I can promise you that they are seriously so impactful, especially because we have a long history of not being able to see these things happen. So yeah, let's get into the next way to be an ally. The next way to be an ally is a really good one, and I actually reached out to my sister, who's the president of the Black Lives Matter chapter here in my hometown, to get a lot of this information just to make sure it was accurate. And I want to read this exactly what she said, because I think that it's really impactful. And she said, we need action alone with alone. So not action with, action alone with all these trendy or sexy look at me, I'm so woke moments. If you're doing a blackout or buying from a black business for one day, it's not a lasting change. And it really is important just to remember that the passion that we might feel this week or during the week where, you know, everyone is being muted on social media, it's really important that that continues for a very long time, and that's how we can create true change. It's a good start, of course, but it's necessary that people are willing to stand and fight when it comes to doing physical work, like meeting with or calling or writing your legislation to make sure that changes that are being in effect do have a positive effect on the Black community. It's important to talk to school boards to bring needed funding and programs to underserved schools. Holding a sign and, you know, saying Black Lives Matter in a protest, or saying that you stand in solidarity with the Black community is important, but that is an action that brings attention to the problem, but it doesn't fix the problem. And so specific problems like that are good to be addressed in actionable ways. And I think that goes back to education, because you can't specifically take action to fix things without being educated on what the actual problems are. So yeah, those are just a few ways to take actionable steps. But it's just really important to remember that action is important above all else. So let's get into the next way to be an ally. The next way to be an ally during this time for the Black community is to keep the conversation going. I know it's hard because it is a tough thing to talk about, like really tough, but keep it going. And, you know, if you know someone who you think doesn't fully understand that there is an issue or a problem, discussing with them with kindness, of course, is so important. I know my husband, who is white, he is of course very supportive of the Black community, but he has conversations all the time with people that don't fully understand that there is an issue. And so having those tough conversations as a white person can make a huge impact. I know on my Instagram live video, I talked about an experience that I had where I shared my viewpoint, and I shared the frustrations that I had in, of course, a diplomatic way. And the person that I shared them with didn't quite understand that there was an issue. But then when someone white shared those exact same words in a very similar way, the person did understand. And so I think sometimes just keeping the conversation open as a white person helps other white people listen versus feeling defensive or feeling like they don't quite relate. So I think that's a great way to be an ally. The next way to be an ally is to make sure that you challenge yourself. Don't avoid the discomfort that you're feeling. Really lean into embracing that discomfort, but recognizing why you're feeling that discomfort. You know, is it because you might be someone who gets a little fearful or nervous if you have a group of Black people walking towards you? Or is it because, you know, you're feeling discomfort because someone was murdered and you feel helpless? Or is it because you don't know who to talk to, or that you have friends who think differently than you? Lean into the discomfort and figure out why you feel that way, and then really sit on those feelings. Really think deeply about why it is the way that you're thinking, the way that you do. There's so much that all of us have to unlearn. You know, society teaches us so many different things about the way we should think just by being in the world that we live in. You know, you should have a certain body type, or you should look a certain way, or you should communicate in a certain way, or, you know, there's just so many different things that society says is the way that things should be done. So it's not a bad thing to feel like you have these feelings of discomfort. It's just recognizing that discomfort and then figuring out why you're not comfortable. And then like really fleshing out all of those thoughts and emotions. That's so important for your own self-development, but also for you know, other people that you know who you might be able to tell that they are feeling discomfort as well, and then helping them and encouraging them to think deeper about why they are feeling that discomfort. The next way to be an ally is to ask questions. And I say this, but I want to use like a little disclaimer. Only ask questions to Black people in your life that have made it clear that they are open to answering questions. I have been very open and very transparent and honest with people, answering questions and providing you know, just a different perspective. And if you guys have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to DM me on Instagram. I typically like to keep a lot of those messages private, only because I feel like sometimes if you ask a question in a comment, you might get like tons of different thoughts in that comment, and I think it's a lot easier to like follow a dialogue if it's just two people. So if you do have any questions, you are more than welcome to DM me and ask me. But yeah, I think asking questions is so important, but also be honest with yourself. You know, be honest with yourself about where you are, how much you have to learn. If you feel like you know everything, you know, just be very honest with yourself, and that's really the only way that you can fully grow, is if you are honest with where you are, and then the gaps where you feel like you have in your knowledge of what's going on, just asking questions. That's really, really important. The next way to be an ally is to diversify your group of friends. I think that's so important because you can't fully understand how someone feels or what someone's experiencing if you don't have a close relationship with someone in that particular group. So I think that's so important. I think that's important to diversify not only your friend groups, but the information that you take in. So whether that's, you know, watching a movie with predominantly Black people, that's not a documentary, that's literally just, you know, maybe a show on BET, or if that's, you know, going onto Instagram and following people who are of color to see their life experience. You're just diversifying yourself in many different ways to make sure that you add in Black people into your life is really important. I know for myself, just as an example, growing up, my parents had to actively like seek out Black dolls and Black toys. There's a lot of toys, especially when I was younger, but there were a lot of toys that were predominantly white. You know, you could probably find a Black baby doll. Like I remember the American Girl dolls at the time, they did have one doll that was Black and she was a slave. That was her story. But they wanted us to have more of an experience of not just Black people that were coming from situations of oppression, but they wanted just us to see ourselves in regular everyday people in our toys, in our movies, in our books. So they really made sure to seek those out. And so, you know, as a Black person, I really appreciate that. So now growing up, I have so many memories of watching books or watching movies and reading books and playing with toys and playing computer games and things where the Black person is the main character and the sole person in that experience. And I think it's really important to make sure that you do that as well. that way you can just have another experience added into your way of thinking. And when you diversify not only the things that you bring in, whether it's friend groups or like social media and things like that, to add in people of color, I really think that gives you a very well-rounded perspective. The last way to be an ally is to start with your own local community. So important. I know that in my community we have Black-owned businesses, we have Black spaces where a lot of Black people congregate and hang out, and typically it is just Black people, and it's not because other people aren't welcome, it's just because typically in spaces where a lot of Black people congregate, other people of other races don't always feel comfortable for whatever reasons, and so they don't typically participate. And so it's really important to start in your own local community. A good way to do that is to find your local Black Lives Matter chapter, if you have one, or organizations that do support Black people. I know in my hometown we have the Black Lives Matter chapter. We have a organization that supports and uplifts boys in the community that are Black, like in their teens, and then there's a couple other organizations that, like one that supports girls that are in their teens that are Black. So seek out those organizations and see how you can be a part and help those organizations grow and succeed, and really truly support them, you know, not just by your words, but also by your actions. And I feel like that's one of the most important steps, because you can easily post something on Instagram or post something on YouTube, or you know, go to a protest or to a peaceful rally. You know, I know that in my hometown we had a protest where we had about 3,000 cars, which is roughly between 5,000 and 9,000 people, and we had a procession in honor of George Floyd. And you know, the procession was huge, and it was great to see the support of the community. But I know that a year prior, we actually had a festival to raise funds for a nonprofit organization in my hometown that specifically supports Black people in our community, and the only people that came to the event were predominantly Black people. So you know, it's good to go to protests and it's good to raise awareness, but it's also even more impactful and more important as an ally to actually show up for those events where you can directly impact the Black community. All right, you guys, I know this video is not a typical one. I know that it's very different than what I normally post, and I will get back to posting my regular fashion content next week. I upload on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, as you guys know, but I just didn't feel right not saying something and not posting something on YouTube for education and support. I posted a lot over on my Instagram, which is also not typical, because I typically, you know, if you guys follow me over there, I post a lot of like drinks and like homemade drinks, like whiskey sours and stuff, or like my outfits that I get and hauls and things like that. But I just did not feel right not addressing this. So I hope that you guys appreciate this, and I hope that it was helpful. I will see you guys in my next video on Tuesday with another fashion related video. And of course, here comes my dog. Hi, Buzz. Hi. Of course, he had to get in the video. But I will see you guys in my next one on Tuesday. Bye.